I think when you talk about the biggest busts in quarterback history in the NFL, it's Ryan Leaf one. And I think part of that is because of how he flamed out, that you had him pitted against Peyton Manning, and that it was drugs and volatility, and he was combative, and he was uncoachable. And when you have this debate, Peyton Manning versus Ryan Leaf, he's always pitted against Peyton Manning. Well, he's not Peyton Manning on the field, and he's a disaster off the field. So here is your cautionary tale. Ryan Leaf is like the biggest bust in quarterback history. He's kind of turned his life around now, but as a football draft bust, he always comes up as like the number one bust or one of the number one busts ever. Jamarcus Russell has to be as well because he was the number one pick overall. Ryan Leaf was number two, and Jamarcus, had 2 seasons starting with the Raiders, and he was a disaster and then got into trouble off the field and got really fat and just out of football immediately and didn't even hang around as a backup. So it's like Jamarcus and Ryan Leaf are the biggest busts ever. There's been a lot of first-round busts. If Trubisky loses his job this year to Foles and gets pushed to the wayside, and maybe he's a backup, but I don't know. Would you bring in Trubisky? Maybe he would float around as a young backup, people thinking maybe if we get him in our system. But he was the number 2 pick overall, and the Bears traded away so much collateral for him. I think Mitchell Trubisky could be the next Ryan Leaf, Jamarcus Russell conversation. I think he's those slideshows you click through on the internet, biggest draft bust ever. Click through the slideshow. Once you get to 2 and 3, it'll be Ryan Leaf, Jamarcus Russell, and then Mitchell Trubisky right in there. I mean, I think he's in that category because he gets such scorn from Bears fans, and because there was a brief bright spot early and then such a collapse. I mean, if he loses this job to Foles and he doesn't come back with the Bears, I think he gets on that list, which is a hard list to crack because you have the Christian Ponders and the Jake Lockers and the Blaine Gabberts of the world that are on that list. And I think Trubisky would soar past them all because he was the number 2 pick and the Bears were a big brand. And he could go down in history as one of the greatest quarterback draft bust ever because he's also in the same draft as Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. And once you compare his career to them, he'll never be them. Ever. I think he could end up being one of the biggest busts ever.